I have already talked about the Adeptus Sororitas with the balance patch, and that video is linked in the comments. Now I'm going to look at the Deathwatch and the Genestealer Cults. This balance patch is the first time that Games Workshop has changed from the 3 monthly points update and 6 monthly rules patch into both every 3 months. There are small changes and I am okay with that in principle. 3 months isn't as long to wait as 6 months, and I prefer 2 little changes to get to the same place instead of 1 big change. That way, if some change is bad, like all of the things that happened to the Battle Sisters in December last year, they don't go all the way in a 3 months patch and can tone it down, roll it back, or leave it be. Or if a full change is needed, after the 6 months, you have the full change. The complete Warhammer, instead of having only the head of a Warhammer, which is a useless lump of metal. The balance patch and rules update and Munitorum field manual and FAQs has felt much easier to get through this time, even with it scattered out to 23 documents. But that is because I don't care about one particular, maybe major change to the game, which I will get to at the end. Because you might care about it, but I don't care about it right now. There is not a lot of Genestealer Cult changes, which is not what we wanted. The army is crying out for patches after all of the cutting and redoing of our rules since the Codex came out 10 months ago. Cult Ambush has been kept the same as it was in December 2024. Good? I like it the way it is. This way is nice. I can choose detachment specific units to return, so the ones that get the bonus in the detachment I'm using. And I know I can bring them back quickly if the first wave dies very early on. Better than having units die and letting the dice decide what I get to throw at the wall as a second or third wave, if anything. And my opponent likes it this way too, in case I was playing in the previous version, or like the pre-Codex version, where you got everything back, potentially. Everything with the Cult Ambush rule. The army rule is the same, and the resurgence points we've got are the same. Those are things that Games Workshop could change if they decided, okay, everyone's bringing back metamorphs all of the time, let's make them 3 and 6 resurgence points, or 3 and 5 resurgence points, instead of their current 2 and 4. What needed a fix were many of the stratagems in the Codex detachments, because they are based around using the Cult Ambush tokens, something we don't need to keep around anymore, not since the first patch after the Codex came out, when, I see, I can just deep strike. I don't need to come back on the token. So many stratagems are duds. The easiest way to fix them is you are spending command points to put a detachment specific unit into Cult Ambush, and it costs fewer resurgence points. So spend 1 command point and get a Pure Strain Genestealer Cult unit into Cult Ambush for 1 resurgence point fewer than normal. The Jackals in the Outlander Claw, you get them in Cult Ambush for 1 resurgence point fewer. Or in the Xenocreed detachment, a Neophyte, Acolyte or Metamorph unit for 2 command points costs 2 resurgence points fewer. Basically free for an Acolyte or Metamorph unit of 5. That'd be fine. It needs more thought put into it than that, but that would be something. And considering the minor changes to the Adeptus Sororitas, something would be on par with what we get so far. The points changes are very minor. Thankfully, no change to the Ridge Runner. 20 Neophytes went up by 15 points, from 130 points to 145 points. That is fair. Once you add all the combos you can perform in the Brood Brothers Auxilia, but especially in the Host of Ascension, like lethal hits and sustained hits, all triggering on a 5+, they are worth the points increase. The Neophytes are the only unit on our army that can be 20 models strong, and it is hard to kill your way through all of them at once to stop the banner returning even more models. So they are a unit that can endure far more than any of the other units that are not 20 models strong, which is all of them. 10 Neophytes is nowhere near a problem to get rid of, so I'm glad that this isn't a boost in points for both sizes of squad. Just the 20 size squad got more expensive. If you are playing the Brood Brothers Auxilia, of which I have a video explaining how to play the Brood Brothers Auxilia, there are still no updates to the Legends rules. You don't have a Death Corps of Krieg Marshal in there, you don't have the Infantry Squad in there. I suppose if you're not playing a tournament game, you can just ignore reality and substitute the Index and Forge World variants as they were at the start of the edition. The Catachan and Cadian as well, heavy weapon teams, are 15 points more. So the 3 models cost the same as 10 Catachans, Cadians, or Deathcore of Krieg. I'm not sure I agree with that. I could be okay with the Catachan heavy weapon team going up in points compared to the Cadian one, as I think the Catachan one is objectively better, but this seems a bit much. Probably because you can have them as mortars, and indirect fire needs to always have a higher and higher points increase until no one takes them. In the final day detachment, where you can take Tyranids, the Trigon and the Neurolictor are each 10 points cheaper. They are not often taken in the final day, it's more Gargoyles and Lictors that are preferred. A Neurolictor works better in the Tyranids army because of its shenanigans with Battle Shock and leadership, but at the same points cost, I prefer Death Leaper. I think of Death Leaper as an enhancement over a regular Lictor, so if I have a few points left at the end, I will change one of my Lictors into Death Leaper. These are all changes I can live with. I know they are not positive in points for the Neophytes, but it is okay. It is a little change, even if a bigger change was needed. The Imperial Agents, well, they still don't have an army rule. Their army rule is you can ally into other armies, and I guess you get cheaper units compared to every other Imperium faction when you're playing your own codex, just you, by yourself. But what it really feels like is a penalty for every other faction to take the units. It doesn't seem cheaper to be, yes, I am the faction of 100 infantry units. All of the kill teams are here. Well, most of the kill teams. A lot of the kill team boxes are here in the Imperial Agents. Horde of Infantry works. There was a recent tournament win with the Imperialis fleet, and a lot of infantry with high objective control, and some attempts to clear objectives with breaches and Deathwatch veterans. So thinking of the Deathwatch veterans, which is called the Deathwatch kill team in the Imperial Agents Codex, there is now an FAQ to say that Inquisitors can only join the Deathwatch kill team that is called the Deathwatch kill team from the Imperial Agents Codex, not any unit with the Deathwatch kill team keywords, which are most of them in the Deathwatch Space Marine Index version 2. Does this make sense to you? This unit you can join. This unit you can't join. This Legends unit you can't join. I have received this question pretty often, and my response was, technically, yes, you can join Deathwatch kill team units, but I don't think you should. Now we have it in FAQ writing. And there was one little points decrease on the Caluxus Assassin. I have no strong opinions on that. I've never found them a particularly good assassin, not compared to any of the other 3. Now the Deathwatch and Space Marines, because Deathwatch are now also Space Marines again, but only if you play them as the Deathwatch Index, not the Deathwatch from the Imperial Agents. Totally different codex type. Different thing. Totally different. The Deathwatch Terminators in the Deathwatch Index have gone up in points and gone down in points. A squad of 5 is 10 points more, a squad of 10 is 10 points fewer. This is because all of the crazy missile weapons, like the missile launcher, the assault cannon, the heavy flamer, they can be taken regardless of squad size. So you get the best weapons and the most out of them in a squad of 5, compared to a squad of 10, which is also going to have the same 3 special weapons. I think that is a fair change. I did expect a points increase on the Terminators. I was also expecting an increase to the Indomitor kill team and the Talonstrike kill team. That there hasn't been a points increase on them is good. They continue to perform very well. For the meta, for the tournament side, this is a 20 points increase on the LVO tournament winning list, but that can stick around as it is if you drop the Thief of Secrets. The army will perform basically the same. It can be almost as effective as it was before. The Thief of Secrets is really nice, but anyone seeing the Judicia wasn't going to go, oh, wait, I'm not going to charge them with their fight first precision attacks if there's a Thief of Secrets, but I absolutely will if there isn't. I think the army will work basically the same. There are many other changes to Space Marines. The ability to have +1 to wound is now only for Codex Space Marine detachments. There is a list in the FAQ to say what is a Codex Space Marine detachment, which is the 7 detachments in Codex Space Marines, and the Librarius Conclave we got as a Grotmus detachment in December. This is to stop something called the Bloodless Angels, where you would use a Blood Angels detachment but not take any Blood Angels units, getting almost the best of both worlds. You get the better Oath of Moment with the +1 to wound, you get the Blood Angel detachment with the extra strength and attacks. So you can't take the Black Spear Task Force with only Codex Space Marine units and get +1 to wound. As soon as you take the Black Spear Task Force, you are on the inferior version of Oath of Moment. So the Ultramarines are massively the way to go, as they have so many characters that boost you up. Robuto Gilliman has a way of making more Oaths of Moment, which will also benefit from the +1 to wound. Yeah, that can be, it's very nasty. It's very unpleasant. But one of the Ultramarine characters has had a penalty. Uriel Ventress has this ability to give Deep Strike to a unit. Now he can give it to fewer types of unit. It is Phobos, Gravis, and Tacticus only. So no regular tactical squads or Devastator squads deep striking, and oh, no Centurions. They can't deep strike anymore. You know, Centurions get a lot of hate, and good. It is deserved. I talked to Paul today, who loves Centurions, about the changes, and the points went down on Devastator Centurions. So anyone who was putting them on the table to shoot things instead of teleporting them around with Uriel Ventress and the Guerrilla Tactic Stratagem to have them return by Deep Strike, well, you'd be great. If you were doing that, you'll have to pick a different unit for Uriel Ventress to teleport around. Maybe Sternguard. They would love to pop up really close to someone with a lot of shots, but any Centurions using the Guerrilla Tactic Stratagem will have to waddle on from the edge of the board. They come from regular strategic reserves, they can't come from Deep Strike reserves, because they don't have Deep Strike. Now, something I spotted last balance patch has now been corrected with the Phobos Lieutenant. Their ability let them move after shooting. So if you came from Deep Strike with, say, Reavers or a Spectrus kill team, you could have landed, shot, moved, and then still charge, and that is a much easier charge because it is essentially a 3d6 charge rather than 2d6. Not allowed anymore. You can't charge after using the Lieutenant's movement ability. So, no easy deep strike and charge. There was a slight change to the Stormlance detachment, so one of their stratagems, which was a reactive move of 6 inches, is now limited to infantry and mounted units only, no using it on big tanks. The Fire Discipline stratagem in the Gladius Task Force, which gives you sustained hits, is 15 points cheaper because as of the last balance patch, it no longer gives you critical hits on a 5+ in the Devastator Doctrine, which was a really cool extra thing which you'd combine with lethal hits, and oh look, it's the Genestealer Cult host of Ascension with the chink in our armor for lethal hits and sustained hits and having it on a 5+. Games Workshop, no, you haven't looked into this at all. You don't need to. It's not possible to do it anywhere outside of that Gladius Task Force back in the day. It's fine. Leave the Genestealer Cult alone. Yeah, extra points on Neophytes. It's okay. It's okay. That will do. And in the Librarius Conclave, Fusillade as an enhancement has gone up. This is the enhancement that gives you anti-monster, anti-vehicle, and also sustained hits. Or if you're in a different psychic discipline at the time, extra range. Compared to Fire Discipline, which also gives sustained hits, Fusillade did seem cheap. So if your Deathwatch or Space Marines generally are in any of those attachments, these are minor changes. The Emperor's Children Codex has come out recently, and this is the first points change since that codex came out. It really feels like half a codex. If you were playing the Emperor's Children in Codex Chaos Space Marines, this feels like half the codex it was. Maybe half of your units have disappeared. It's like the bad side of World Eaters, but worse, with not a lot of units. There are no cultists for you. And if you search Emperor's Children Predator, you can see the sorts of lists that come up. Or you get put on. That vehicle isn't there. And this isn't even, like Age of Sigmar, a Codex Slanesh. You can only ally in a few demon units into the main army in one of the detachments. Though you can still use the regular Chaos Daemons Demonic Pact to have up to a quarter of your army as any of the Slanesh units from the Demons Index. That isn't limited to Demonettes, Fiends, the Keeper of Secrets, Seekers, and the big, tall, creepy Keeper of Secrets. So by using the regular Demon Ally rules, you could have the Mask of Slanesh, or the Infernal Enrapturous. Thankfully, the Genestealer Cult get almost the full range of Brood Brothers from the Imperial Guard, and a few usable units from the Tyranids Codex, and we don't have the painful Eldar thing of only a few select Dark Eldar units are available for the Ynnari detachment. The Legends document with the Eldar has been updated so they have the correct army rule and the correct keywords, so you can actually play them in your army. Good, that is the basic standard we expect of Legends rules. It would be nice if they had points updates as well, but that doesn't seem to happen. It's happened like once for the Adeptus Sororitas, and I was not expecting it, but it happened. What also worried me about the Emperor's Children is the way there are points drops on a lot of units. They seem really good, especially the Tormentors, which have infiltrate and sticky objectives and precision on everything. They might be the best battle line unit in the game. We will have to see how the meta turns out once I start playing against them. Aside from the monsters of the Emperor's Children, there was a monstrous update that Games Workshop will, surprise, be doing quarterly new detachment releases. This is not interesting for me because none of my armies got one. But the Tau got a surprise extra detachment in the experimental prototype cadre, which looks easy enough to use. One for Custodes, the Lions of the Emperor, which is confusing because I kept thinking, wasn't there a Dark Angels one? No, that's Custodes, and Custodes players seem happy about it. A rumoured Orc detachment, which has sustained hits 2 on all of the guns, was slapped away as, no way, that's too overpowered, it can't happen. Well, here it is. It's the Bad Moons detachment with lots of guns and sustained hits 2 on all the shooting from walkers and infantry. The Mordaka detachment looks really fun to roll a lot of dice with a terrible hit chance. But I look forward to seeing that on the table. So quarterly new detachments are announced. So Genestealer Cult, Adeptus Sororitas, presumably Deathwatch and Imperial Agents, and all the others will get more detachments at some point. You will be able to see them on the Warhammer Community's download page, but you only get them in the Games Workshop app if you bought the Codex. What a weirdly pointless paywall. So I don't know how that works if you're on the Index, like the Deathwatch. I guess it's just another free one. You don't need to have the Codex paid for, so that's nice. And an extra detachment, but probably also the only update we're going to get for the Chaos Daemons, because I don't think we're getting a Chaos Daemons Codex. This gives them the Shadow Demon detachment, the one I was expecting. So now we have a basic Index detachment, 4 different Chaos Gods detachments, and Be'lakor detachment. At 6 detachments, this is all of them. That's all you get in a Codex. Well, most Codexes. The Shadow Legion gives you a very Index Chaos Space Marine way of playing, with the different god marks making some stratagems better. Up to half of your army can be from specific Chaos Space Marine units, so if you played Wordbearers and you wanted your demons plus your Chaos Space Marines, it's the other way around, but this will give you demons plus Chaos Space Marines in a much greater quantity than if you're just using Chaos Demon allies, and the stratagems will help both sides of your army rather than ignoring the Chaos Demons and it being a matter of taking the blue scribes because, yeah, I need someone to complete some actions while the rest of the army is fighting. As well as the new detachment, the Chaos Demons have also received updates to all of their demons, which will be in line with how they appear in the various codexes to come out. So the Chaos Demons in the Chaos Demon Index now match the Chaos Demons in the Emperor's Children Codex. The Chaos Demons of Nurgle are the same as the ones that will appear in the Death Guard Codex. And this has had its own set of, oh yeah, we don't make that model anymore, so Karnak the dog has gone off to Legends. But Chaos Demons as a living index now joins the Deathwatch as a living index. There may be no further updates to them because if Games Workshop isn't charging you for a book, which then lets you have extra things on the app, then maybe they don't want to update it anymore, which may mean the Demons and Deathwatch don't get any further detachments. That would suck. I would like a Deathwatch detachment which has weapons for taking out vehicles, because we only have anti-monster. We could do with some anti-vehicle. Now, a balanced data slate and points discussion would not be complete without the Adeptus Sororitas, so the next video I recommend completes the set of my armies if you haven't seen it already, the Adeptus Sororitas and the Balance Patch. My darlings and viewers, I hope the balance patch has treated you well. Have a great day of 40k.